That old world charm, doo-doo-doo-doo. That old world charm, reviews say it's alright.
G'day, our lovelies. What's this? 2 shows in 2 weeks, and you're likely getting another one. Next week. Outrageous.
What?
I'm joined on this episode of That Old World Charm by the illustrious and the wonderful Peter Colosimo, also known as the Falcon.
That's me.
Yeah, I used your full name like a parent. Ew.
Ew,
Do you even have a middle name?
I do.
It's Boob, isn't it?
No,
Peter Boob
like,
Colosimo.
it's one of those like mother's last name scenarios.
Okay.
And her last name isn't like super common, so
Definitely Boob.
it is Boob.
We are here to do our breakdown and analysis of the field at the WTC. I believe the second ever WTC for this old world. It's going to be a very exciting show, very interesting deep dive. And next week, we're hoping to come out with the results because it is happening this freaking weekend. So hopefully you'll be following along, championing on your national team because this is a slobber knocker. We'll go through a little bit of the history of the ETC, WTC, give people the lowdown of why this is cool, why it's important, why they should give us stuff. What do you know of it, brother?
WTC's been going on for a hella long time. For a long time, it was referred to as the ETC, European Tournament Champions.
Yeah.
And then later, as more and more, as it grew and began to envelop more and more countries like the United States and Canada, it changed its name to the WTC, and then eventually kind of split into 2 groups. The big thing here with the WTC is it's an event held generally somewhere in Europe, where teams from around Europe and the world get together, usually 8-man teams, for different games. And they go at it to see like who can bring the best of the best from their country to win in a team's environment for like 40K. There's an Age of Sigmar WTC as well that's held at another time. And there's now an Old World WTC, a return to the old world, because Warhammer Fantasy Battle was a part of the original like ETC WTC.
Correct.
As well.
I'm unsure if there has been a 9th Age WTC. I'm unsure, so please don't crucify me if there's been more WTCs in our beautiful rank and flank that's been a split off from the ETC than we're aware of, but please let me know if there has. But yeah, the WTC is awesome. It's essentially the Olympics. It's the Olympics that happens every year where you like the premise is you send a national team of hopefully your 8 best players, but sometimes it's the 8 people who can afford to go and want to go, because there's a lot of effort, usually a lot of money for various different countries to put up. You get flights, accommodation, you got to pay for food, you got to pay entry fees, you got to do all these things in addition to like buying, painting new armies necessarily. And it is a huge deal to win this thing. It is very illustrious. Having a like WTC or ETC win has been the feather in the cap of the careers of many a player. I have played at this level in 40K. 3 times, and it's one of my specialities that I love to go and commentate on the 40K one every year. I would freaking adore the opportunity to go and do the same for the old world. Please, somebody make that happen. Just DM me. Just tell me where to be. I'll freaking do it. And guarantee you got at least 1 camera on a top down, and that's all I need. I'll make Peter come as well, and we'll relive the LVO glory days.
Well, I will say I was asked.
They asked you and not me, son of a bitch.
Well, for Canada, they asked me if I would be interested next year if Canada brought a team, because this year I don't believe Canada doesn't have a team for Old World WTC, but I know that there are some rumblings. They're asking around, and I did get asked if I would consider the travel, and I said maybe, probably. I mean, it's an experience I'd love to have. I was invited to the 40K WTC on more than one occasion, kind of for different roles, and I've never been able to go. Never as well. I guess there was one time it was kind of like maybe we could get you in as a player, but I was like, I'm not actually good at this game, guys. I just know stuff about it. But more often as like a coach or as a commentator, I've been asked a few times. But COVID and things happened, and it's just a hard thing for a single dad to do. And just to go back, there were Ninth Age WTCs as well.
Awesome.
So like this has been a thing that's been long going, and it's just such a very unique experience.
Yeah.
And I would say most of my friends in the 40K community that have taken part say it's like the best thing that you can do in the game. It like trumps any like singles competition out there. It's just like a spectacular experience all around.
Yeah. Now, the format of the WTC is a very unique thing. It's a kind of thing unlike any other. It is the like peak of the hierarchy of teams events. Playing with 8 players is the premium number in order to make a whole bunch of things work. First and foremost, you cannot take multiple factions. You can't take the faction more than once. That is one Tomb King, that is one Cathay, that is one XYZ. And so list construction and design, what factions get taken and not taken, is a very high level discussion between you and your team. Naturally, in the game as it sits at the moment, there's probably 3 to 4 to maybe 5 factions, which will be like 100% we want Windmill Slam this in. And then it gets very interesting. Like, what players do we have? What are their specialities? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What are they going to be good at and bad at? And how do we wield them appropriately? The next level past that is the pairings process. Now, the pairings process is something that literal savants of mathematics and all sorts, people trying to use AI to juke it and jank it and jive it and all sorts of other things. But the pairings process is pretty much as thus. I said, let's say I'm a captain for Team Australia. Peter's the captain for Team Canada. We each put up a player. It was like out of my pack of 8, I'm going to throw up this guy. And then Peter will be like, okay, well, your guy's going to play one of these 2 from my team, and then I offer whoever Peter put up, and this happens simultaneously, essentially 2 guys from my team. And then you roll off, and the winner of the roll off gets the first table choice. That is usually how it is done everywhere that I've seen. I haven't specifically read the WTC pack for this one, but seeing as the ETC designed this format and invented it, and this is the progenitor of it, I'm assuming it is something pretty close. And that will go on until the last pairing, and where a bunch of auto pairs happen for things remaining left in hand, et cetera, and the rejects. But suffice to say, that pairings process and how good you are at it and how well you do it is as deep a thing as there could be. It is an endless pool of data and nuance and, trying to seek advantage and get your players into the right matchups. And that is informed by what we call a matrix usually. At this level, you would assume most teams have done a matrix for the other either strong teams or the matchups most likely to be seen. And so what you'll do is you'll have your players sit down and put in a prediction of what they expect to achieve in each of their relevant matchups. So, for example, if I was playing Bretonians, I would go through and I would judge and be like, okay, how am I going to do into vampire counts? And I'd put a 20-0 score against it. Can be 1 to 5, or it can just be a traffic light system, depending on how nuanced you want to get, where, cool, I think I'm going to win, so it's a green. Or it is a 12 or a 13 plus on the 20-0 differential. I'm confident I will get a win into this matchup. Between 8 and 12 is usually deemed to be a yellow, and anything below 7 or below is usually deemed to be an orange or a red on the differential scoring system. And so that you will compile, all 8 players will compile a massive matrix of this, and that will be used to influence how you pair and the matchups you try and seek and avoid. And like I said, this thing is a whole big brain mega mind system that is so juicy for us math-based nerdy boys. And I got to say, having played 40K and I've played a couple of team events for fantasy battles in 8th edition, fantasy teams, so much better than 40K teams. Oh my God. I can't speak to AOS, but I feel like it's peak nerd.
There is a lot to say about fantasy teams. Val from Square Based and I and Rob and Shane, we all went to the Canhammer team tournament for Old World, and that was just a 4-man teams event. And it was still extremely exciting, although the pairings and the matrices are a lot simpler when it comes to 4-man teams than an 8. There's still a lot to unpack there. The way you play the games often ends up being different, especially the greater the team sizes, because it's very common that you're only going to get 2 or 3 of the matches that you really want. And then you're hoping that you get 2 or 3 that you were okay with. And then you're going to almost always inevitably have like 2 pairings that you were not interested in having to begin with in an 8-man team. So it's about balancing that. And how do you play with like, okay, we threw up our first defender. He's been given basically a yellow and a red. We're going to throw him into this yellow and hope for the best. And then how does he play to make sure it's a yellow? So like the game changes, right? You play less aggressively or you play more aggressively. And there's also like the impact of your team captain, who gets to kind of go from table to table and without explicitly giving scores can indicate, hey, I need you to back off, or I need you to get a 20 now. Based on what's going on around them, right? And it's just such a huge thing. And with the advent of stats and 40K and like how that has grown, we're seeing that get implemented more and more on the 40K side of things. So I can't wait to see once Old World gets like a huge library in that regard, what that'll do. But yeah, like it's such a completely different way to play the game when you're like, if you're at the top level in a team's event scenario.
Oh, dude, it's buck wild. And then when you said like, somebody gets offered a yellow and a red matchup when they get put up for a pairing, it can be like sometimes better to take the red matchup because it'll take it out of the pool for your players down the line. And they won't have to try and dodge it and try and seek better things. It just gets so much deeper the deeper you go. You keep swimming and then the pool keeps opening up. It's entirely amazing. So what we're going to be doing on this episode, now the preamble's out of the way, the good old 11 minutes of it, we're going to be breaking down some of the teams in attendance. What have they brought? Breaking down some lists, talking about, what's the tech that decided to go with? What are they trying to play into? What are they trying to avoid? Things like this. We're going to try and give you guys some insight into some of the roles within these teams and kind of the expected results for each. What are they trying to achieve? It can be very simple in some ways, especially as Old World, in many respects, is a burgeoning meta. It's still very much a developmental meta. We haven't quite got the swirl of that beautiful rock, paper, scissors where there's multiple armies. There can be multiple armies. There can be multiple armies, et cetera, et cetera. It's much more of a brick rather than a rock. And, of course, the paper has no chance against brick. Brick just win. Scissors sucks. So it's much more of that. And so unpacking it is going to be very interesting from that level. In addition, there's some big heavy hitters, big known quantity factions that were, essentially expected by every team. And so what have they found to be solutions to those things to try and either corral them or even to burst that bubble and get a big win out of armies that, teams would expect to get big win themselves? My man, any other insights you want to give before we break down the meta stats and the faction stats?
No, I think we've kind of nailed like the big overarching thing. We're going to have a part 2 where our patrons are going to have the chance to ask us questions about, maybe some more specific things about WTC events or about like larger team events. We did do like a teamish event episode previously when I was attending Canhammer Team Tournament to kind of explain like thought processes when it comes to like a 4-man teams. 8-man teams is just infinitely more complex. Now, I guess the one thing I would say is while, Old World and Warhammer Fantasy Battle and 9th Age have been going on for a long time, and I'm sure many of the people that are going to be at this event have probably been playing these for quite some time and maybe even attending WTCs for quite some time. The one thing that was like very common to see up until like 6-7 years ago when it came to 40K WTC before it really, really blew up is that sometimes, you'll have 6 or 7 teams that are really bringing their best and their brightest or as close to it as they can get. And then there's going to be a bunch of teams or a handful of teams that it's who can afford to go, right? Or like who was even interested at all. Like I can think back to like, and I'm just going to say a random year, by the way, if you're listening to this and you were on that team, don't be offended, but like Team USA 2014 for 40K, probably mostly guys that had enough money to attend or were kind of part of like, I knew the captain and he asked me if I could go and paid for my plane ticket type scenario versus, nowadays where like they're getting Patreons, like Patreons going and GoFundMe's, and they're literally sending the best and the brightest. And these are teams, like all of the teams are playing, 3, 4, 5 games minimum a week of their like faction and playing other factions just to get a feel for how to play. So it's very possible that some of these teams maybe aren't, at their possible peak.
Correct.
But my expectation is like year to year, this is going to grow and get even bigger and brighter and better.
Yeah, agreed. It's very similar to a sporting club, I've found, in that you'll have like golden years where you manage to get, let's say 6 to 7 of your best 10 players in the country together on the same team. And that team, makes a big old run at going all the way. And then you'll have years where you have to blood a bunch of new players, get some new players in there, get them experience at this level and at this, density and expectation and preparation. And, then you'll start building again. It's very similar to that. Like you always draft new players, build them up, and then make a run. Yeah. And then sometimes you bottom out a little bit. But in these early years,
sorry to interrupt, but like Australia was a perfect example of that. It was
absolutely.
only 2021 or so where you guys actually finally got to bring more than say 3 or 4 of your best.
Correct.
Guys.
Yeah, so I played in 2018, and we had one guy on our team who had played less than 3 games of that edition of the game. And that guy was coming to play for his country. And by golly gosh, he won a game, and we were all freaking pumped for him. But and then the very next year, we played for the win. So just to give you an example of how it can really, really pivot on the dime. So let's jump in. Give us the faction lowdown, my man. So there's 18 teams, 18 nations represented. So you won't see any faction more than 18 times. And the closer they get to 18, that means the more nations have decided this is a must-have auto-include Windmill Slam in their lineup.
Yeah. So of the factions in the game, 14 are represented. That's a pretty decent number. Factions that were all of the non-legacy factions are being represented. In terms of legacy factions, I'll tell you right now, there's no Ogre Kingdoms, there's no Dark Elves. Unfortunately, they didn't see any uptake, and I believe that's it. Maybe there's another that I'm forgetting off of the top of my head. But I'm gonna, as I break these down, and you're like, Peter, I can't believe you forgot them. Don't worry, it's because I don't care. Actually, sorry, I do care because one of them is Lizardmen. There are no Lizardmen represented.
Yes, I was about to remind you. Your baby, your sweet baby.
I don't know, man. It's been legends should just go away, I guess, at this point. If I've already forgotten about Lizardmen, that was just for Val because I know he's going to listen and have an absolute aneurysm that I said that.
Yeah.
But factions that are represented, first off, all 18 teams that are attending the WTC this year decided to bring Cathay, which should come as no surprise.
Shock. Oh, look at all the shock. I'm not that shocked.
And I would say the majority of the lists are at least similar-esque in terms of build.
So a little bit of comp here because they're limited to 2 balloons, aren't they?
Yes, so we didn't mention that at the top. WTC does have a small bit of comp over and above the match play guide. So you are only allowed, 0 to 2 of any rare, up to 3 of any special, up to I believe 4 of any core, up to 3 of any character choice. However, if a character is on a mount that is otherwise restricted in some way, like a mount that it can be found in special or in rare, you are limited to like whatever their limit is. Yeah. Also, if the army has a set limit built in, you're affected by that. So as long as it's more strict. So let's say you have you're allowed to take 0 to 1 of a certain rare slot. That's all you're getting is the 1. You can't take 2 just because WTC says you can take 2. And because of that, because you are allowed 2 Sky Lanterns in a Cathay list, you are only allowed 2 Sky Lanterns, period, whether they act as mounts or not in Cathay list. So one thing you can expect is that I believe all 18 or like very close are running 2 characters in Sky Lanterns.
Yeah.
So that can be an expectation for like the core build there. We'll cover a few of the lists here when we get a little deeper in. The next most represented is Tomb Kings, which shouldn't really come as too much as a surprise. 17 of the 18 teams are taking Tomb Kings. Do you know which army who didn't? What crazy wild person decided not to?
Well, you keep going. I will have a look.
I bet if you did a search of Tomb in our little database we pulled up, we could find out real quick.
I will. I'll look for the gap.
Next up is Bretonia and Vampires, which also, they're probably the next 2 best armies in the game, and they're at 15 apiece. 14 teams have decided to bring Dwarves. 13 have brought Chaos Warriors. 12 brought Orcs and Goblins. Then we have 11 Beastmen and 11 High Elves, respectively, and 10 Empire. Next up, Skaven. Three countries have elected to bring Skaven, which is, I think, a surprise to some.
Amazing.
2 have brought Chaos Dwarves, 2 brought Demons, and showing just kind of where Wood Elves are now. One country, Switzerland, elected to bring a Wood Elf army, and nobody else did.
What a baller.
Yeah. So who didn't bring Tomb Kings? Because I think it's a wild choice.
Still trying to find it, mate. Yeah, it's going to be needle in a haystack a little bit here.
Because when we broke this down, we split it in half. It would have to be on your half, because the top half of them, everybody brought Tomb Kings.
I'll start at the bottom then. That would have been great information, Peter.
Start at the bottom. Now we're here.
Yeah, that one. Anything surprise you? I mean, I am surprised to see any. In all honesty, I'm surprised to see any Chaos Dwarves, which I think is quite good to see. Two Demons and 3 freaking Skaven. Now it's going to be very interesting for you guys to see what we unpack when we talk about Skaven, because I think it will unfortunately dash a little bit of hope in that people have. I do think it's still a testament that there is even a build that Skaven have that can function at this level of the game. However, I would not be, dancing for joy just yet.
Yeah, so I think Demons is the one that surprises me the most. So another thing about the WTC, they are not using the Renegade pack that I know some of you might be thinking. It's not a thing. It's not really been something that's been taken up by a lot of European countries. They're playing straight Legacy. So with that in mind, it does kind of add to the surprise that we're seeing, Skaven, Chaos Dwarves, Demons in any capacity.
Yeah.
But that said, there are some builds I would think, when we cover them, you'll see, that make Skaven in particular an army that actually feeds really well when you're looking for like an 8th army to bring with you in a team tournament. Demons is the one I'm a little surprised about, because they have, in my mind, especially vanilla Demons, so many red matchups. But we'll break down like kind of why we think these countries decided to bring them. I believe it was the Ukraine brought a Demons list, and who was the other?
One thing we didn't define in the preamble is that, unlike in singles events where you will want to build for every occasion and have as fewer downsides as possible, you will find, because of the pairing process and the ability to dodge certain matchups, lists at this level are built for purpose. They're built for a very specific purpose. They're either built to go and smash this is very thick with hyperbole, but they're either built to go and get points or to not give up points, is the quick and fast definition there. So they're built to either be points denial or points generating. So they're either built to kill or to brick, which is what you'll find, I believe, when we start unpacking some of the Skaven lists. But it was Team Switzerland who did not bring Tomb Kings, as far as I can tell.
Switzerland chose.
They had the Wood Elves. They've got the one of
Wood Elves over Tomb Kings.
So they're
super excited to see what is
Wood Elves, Warriors of Chaos, Orcs and Goblins, High Elves. Then we have Dwarves, Cathay, of course, Bretonnians, and Empire. So interesting stuff there. Going for the double elf. Never trust them.
Also interesting to see a lot of the High Elf players decided to go with, but they decided to go with the Tracian Warhost. Yeah. I mean, I've always been high on the Tracian Warhost, but they haven't seen a lot of results at a singles event perspective. However, like when we break them down, they're very good because of a very specific skew.
Well, we have a patron question specifically about Trace, so we'll hang on to it for that side to give them full reward for their patronage. But I would like to unpack some of the Skaven lists just to give people because I think the Skaven is the perfect look-in to see why armies are built for purpose. Because what is Skaven trying to achieve in these lineups?
So, like you mentioned, like the generally when you're building for teams, especially like an 8-man teams, you're going to be kind of building in 2 ways, and then you have like a tertiary build. Your main 2 are get as many points as possible. Like, what can I get that's going to 20-0 as many armies as I can, and what's going to like refuse to give up points.
Yes.
So this is armies that you're hoping for a 10-10. Maybe you'll pull off a 12-8 or 8-12.
Yeah.
But like that's your goal. Your goal is to like steady the line as long as possible, and just frustrate your opponent. The tertiary build, and this it can get a little fuzzy, but it's when you're building like a silver bullet, and usually because of the way 8-man teams works, you need to have 2. But that's generally like if there's a big bad, like if Cathay is there, and because of how the comp is, Cathay is going to be built a very specific way. You can say, okay, I'm going to take 2 of our armies, and we're going to build them different than we normally would. And the whole concept here is I need to neuter that Cathay matchup.
Correct.
Right?
And Cathay cannot get a 20 versus us.
Yeah. So that if that like here's an army or Bretonia or something, they're always going to be gunning for 20-0s or 18-2s. How can we make it so that they're always at best a 10-10? And so that when they throw up that Cathay eventually, you can say, yeah, here you go. Here's your like gyrocopter spam, and here's your whatever. Yeah. And it's like, this is what you have to do.
A lot of the time, so essentially, and this is going pretty deep into this about a middling explanation of how the pairing process goes. A lot of the time is that, so everyone knows what the big bads are. Sweet. Everyone's going to be trying to get their big bads into your weaker lists, into the weaker things. No one's going to risk their Bretonians in a mirror match. No one's going to put Warriors of Chaos versus Bretonians either, or Orcs and Goblins and things like this. They're going to try and get them into things they can predator, they can bully, they can destroy and get big points of. So usually the games are defined by not how many points your big bads get, by how well your players don't give up points to those big bads. Mm-hmm. And that's usually what wins you the round, because there's always going to be 1 or 2 lists like Cathay, like, Tomb Kings or Vamps that go and like bruiser and like beat up on the opponent. But then there's going to be 2 or 3 other matchups that are a little bit closer than you think. And whether your Bretonian player brings back a 15 or an 11 could be the reason you win or lose a round.
Yeah.
So let's unpack Germany's Skaven list.
Yes. Germany, Hungary, and Norway all elected to bring Skaven. They all have similar-ish takes to the list. And for Germany, they're taking a Gracier level 3 with Demonology, a Power Scroll, Lore Familiar, and a Shadow Magnet.
It's a -1 to hit for the unit, and that it joins, which is very good. And already tells you a little bit about where this is going.
They have 2 Master Assassins, one with a Weeping Blade, one with a Dragon Slaying Sword, a Skaven Chieftain that's just plain Jane.
What a Chad, by the way. Double Master Assassin.
Yeah. Another Skaven Chieftain with the Great Blade, the Storm Banner, 2 Skaven Brews and Battle Standard Bearer. Another Skaven Warlord with the Fell Blade and just on the shield.
So good.
A unit of 21 Clan Rats with a weapon team, a Warp Grinder in the unit. Another unit of 21 clan. Well, they're 20 Clan Rats, but they have a weapon team, so they're counted as 20. So you have another unit of 20 Clan Rats, once again with a Warp Grinder, 3 units of 11 Night Runners, and then a big block of 40 Storm Vermin with a Fang Leader, the Banner of Vermin Scurrying, and a Musician. The reason why it's 40 is because that's the max you can do with that banner and keep your unit under 500 points.
Correct, because no unit can be over 500 points.
Exactly. So this, just for the breakdown here, what this list is on its baseline trying to do is it's going to say, I'm putting 1,500 points of my list in one unit. This unit's going to have like a -1 to be hit. It's going to have a wizard that's going to be able to toss like +1 toughness on it, +1 strength, extra attacks, like really juice up what it's capable of. More importantly, what the characters inside it are capable of.
Yes, correct.
And then it's got, a Master Assassin whose whole job is to rip wounds off of something big before he dies, because he's naked otherwise. A Dragon Slaying Sword Master Assassin whose goal is to do the same thing, hopefully, with his 3-4 attacks if Skaven Brew goes off and Demonology goes off.
Yeah. Yep. So this is, in my opinion, this is a defensive Death Star. So this is a defense star that hasn't gone into. So you look at this on table, you're like, oh, that kills stuff, that kills stuff. It's not there to kill things. It's there to have so many points in this unit and then layered deterrence. like the Master Assassin with the Dragon Slaying Sword. Oh, cool. I could just go and try and chew that thing with my double dragon combo, and I'll try and get through those 1,500 points over the duration of the game by charging turn 1. But I can't. The Dragon Slaying Sword's there. I could go in, I just die. I lose a dragon. One dragon doesn't get through this thing in enough turns. I lose the game by 400 points. So it's layering deterrence to trying to crack this nut. Because this thing doesn't do a huge amount of damage. Like, it's not fast. It's not going to get itself around the table with any particular, agility, and, run things down that don't want to be caught. But what it's going to do is it's going to sit on an objective and be like, I'm just going to get a little bit ahead. I'm going to get a little bit ahead, a little bit ahead, a little bit ahead. And you can't really do anything about it unless you hit me dead perfect.
Yeah. This is like, everything about this list is about points denial. And this is going to win matches because of that points denial. Because, like, if you can use that Banner of Affirmative Scurrying, which gives the unit Swift Stride to your advantage, position your clan rats appropriately, so you're kind of like denying those flank charges, and then using your Night Runners for objective play, what you end up creating is this like gigantic blob that most units, like most armies, do not want to charge ever. You're not going to shoot them out, especially if you're like stuck to 2 balloons. There are a couple armies that are being brought that probably can actually shoot this unit out, but it's not an easy task.
Well, it's
so your opponent's left with like, I can score 500 points here.
Yeah.
And then possibly get another 100 or 200. Because that's the beauty of having like an extra naked Skaven Chieftain, right? Yeah. Is like when you hit them with the thing and the guy does the math and says, okay, well, a Dragon Slaying Sword isn't killing this dude. Weeping Blade isn't going to kill him. Fellblade isn't going to kill him. Okay, I'm going to challenge him with my champ turn 1. Okay, I don't lose any points there. Next turn, okay, I'm going to challenge him with my Skaven Chieftain. I lose 48 points, right? Awesome. And now, hopefully, if you've played your cards right, you're soaking away so many turns that your opponent just can't get anything out of this list. And that's kind of like the overall goal here, right?
Well, so I just did the math. There's 528 points of this army that is not going to be in the Storm Vermin unit.
Yeah.
That's it. You got 528 points to get and not give up. And then, like, on the differential, it's not a big win, guys. It's pretty medium. It's pretty mediocre.
Now, like, there are definitely armies that just don't give a shit about this list, and they will steamroll it, right? Like, if you get like the Double Dragon Warriors of Chaos with triple saves, a couple of these lists are running. This army probably struggles a little bit with it. I'm not going to say it even struggles that much because it does have a ton of combat res built into the squad as well. And it has so many units that can challenge out those dragons. But I think like a Warriors of Chaos list that's playing its cards right probably eventually just like munches enough characters if the Warlord doesn't go off, for example. Like if that Warlord with the Fellblade goes off, okay, that's bad news for you. But it's a very interesting list. Hungary's running a very similar one, except they're taking rattling guns. And they've got a warp condenser, so their Gracier's also like trying to put out a little bit of shooting damage. And they've also got 16 Warplock Chazales and some Globadiers. So rather than playing the Night Runners game of trying to grab objectives, this list is like trying to ping out kind of smaller elite units while still having almost 1,200 points in their Storm Vermin block.
It's riding a little bit closer to the line, but what we would call this list is a list with a little bit more upside. It's a little bit less consistent, but it's got more potential upside. And so it's better in some ways and worse in others. But those are the little things you can tweak. Once you've got your, XYZ amounts of points denial, locked away, you look at what you can do with the remaining points and be like, well, I can try and use these points to generate points, by like things like the Jazales and all those things, or you can go the other way and do more of a double down. Like, I mean, even like 20 clan rats just kind of can annoyingly hang around versus some units.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to give some love to the Renegade factions. Which one would you like to do next?
Well, let's go over demons. There are only 2 demons lists, so we kind of cover them really quick. Let's go with Just bringing them up right now.
So Germany also has one. So we'll skip that one and we'll go to the Ukraine.
Yeah, so Ukraine.
Yep, go.
Ukraine is this list is actually very, very close to what I run in Renegades.
Yeah, me too. I literally kind of ran this list 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And in Renegades, this list is pretty good. Like, it's not amazing. It has huge downfalls. But so Ukraine, Mirko here, the devil, is running a Bloodthirster as his general with a Blood Flail and many arms, not bothering at all with getting the permanent 5-up ward save. So they're just hoping to toss this into a non-magic list, as be my guess, or just hoping that Power Vortex and his MR2 will save him from everything, because they do also have the Tzeentch Flying Demon Prince with Twin Heads, so he's going to have 5 spells, Dark Magic and Power Vortex. So if he can dispel, you're casting at an additional -1. 2 units of 12 Chaos Furies with the Demons of Khorne bonus. Chaos Furies are fantastic. 5 Fleshhounds of Khorne with Vanguard. 4 Blood Crushers with a champ and a standard bearer, no magic standard. And then 2 Skull Cannons of Khorne. So this is like just a very punchy list with a ton of magic resist in it.
So I kind of like what they've done here, because so there is a lot, like we said, there's going to be, I think 4, like when we actually look at the faction breakdown, there's pretty clear to see 4 armies that everyone's trying to take. That's going to get them points. Cathay, Tomb Kings, Bretonnians, and Vampires. They're all built to try and get wins, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Warriors of Chaos is the other one. And then we have what I would say is the holding pattern list with the Dwarves, Orcs, and Goblins, High Elves, Empire Skaven, etc. Beastmen will have to unpack as their own thing, because I'm still scratching my head on what's up with the Beastmen. But yeah, those will if you wanted to be very, very generalist with it, because it's a lot more to it than that, you could see it as going in that direction. When you get past those into things like like the High Elves, like the Empire, some of the Orcs and Goblin lists, this list lines up pretty good. Like, actually lines up pretty good to prey on the bottom 3 or 4 factions of the meta at the moment.
Yeah, and I think what it does well is a lot of the Empire lists are bringing City State of Nuln, and they're going with like the old Witch Hunter list that I was running.
Yeah, dude.
When the book came out, except and then they're just having 1 with magical attack. So that's a list where they're going to be an additional -1 to hit against the Furies, so you're just going to screen with your Furies. They're like 1 Master Mage isn't going to accomplish anything. They're you basically just kill the 1 Witch Hunter that's going to have Suffer Not the Demon in that list if you can, and you're pretty good to go. That said, Great Cannons really fuck up your day. So it's not the best matchup. It's just something that you can probably put in and hope for the best. This list loves any faction that's really trying to spam out casting. So there's a couple of the Beastmen lists that are going with 3 or 4 3 Bray Shamans and Crawl Maw to try and spam Vile Tides, and that just isn't going to work into this list. They're going to have to rely on everything else in it to try and succeed, which is going to be good for the demons, because you can just avoid the scary Doom Bull and pick up stuff along the way.
You're kind of fine. Yeah, every other fight, you're very happy with.
Yeah, exactly. So any list that's really trying to leverage offensive magic, which honestly, I don't think a lot of countries are going to be trying to do with the way the FAQ ran, but some would. This list is going to be great into.
All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Cathay. So Cathay is, in my opinion, the meta-defining army of this event, and because it's the army that is so good and in all intents and purposes so much better than the field and generating consistent wins, that it forces a response from the player base. So there's 2 ways to go about it. Either you accept that Cathay is so good you can't really stop them, so you don't try, and then what we call is you throw somebody under the bus versus Cathay. When they go up, you're like, well, who's not going to give up a 0, right? Who's going to bring back 2 or 3 points? All right, up you go, mate. Eat the Cathay for us. We're not going to stop them. We're definitely not going to beat them, but we're going to do the best we can. The other way is to try and pin Cathay. So pinning would denote, Cathay goes up to get paired and they get the choice of the giant douche in the turd sandwich. There is not a winning situation for them with the two pairings that they're offered. And by doing that, you prevent Cathay from going up as a challenge option. And they have to be used in a completely different mode. Because, in my opinion, they are the best army in the game, especially in teams. They have required and they have demanded that teams do some very interesting things. The first case in point is Tomb Kings. Cathay is so good that they have warped what, in my opinion, is the third or fourth best army in the game into going into a completely different direction than they would otherwise. We have gone back to, the double casket, 2 units of Bo Sharpty kind of mortuary cult builds in a lot of teams have decided to take that because it is a genuine threat to actually beat Cathay. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty much, in my opinion, the only army that I think has a better than not chance to beat them. And then there's a couple that get a coin flip versus them. How do you feel about that?
Like when you do the math on the Ushabti, it's not great, right? Like unless you get the buffs off on them, like 6 or 7 Ushabti, you get 3 hits, 2 wounds, 1 goes through, you do 2 wounds, like, and that's each unit of Ushabti every turn. But that's if you don't get any rerolls or anything on them. So it's not even that great, right? Like you have to rely on so much more. But yes, you are right. Like a number of the Tomb Kings players, not all of them, but a number swung into this like 13, 14, 15, 16 Ushabti.
I'll give you an example. So Wilhelm from the Netherlands, he's got a High Priest General level 4 Elementalism Earthing Rod, and then another High Priest level 3 Elementalism 2 Power Scrolls and a Lore Familiar. Mortuary Priest BSB level 1 Elementalism Amulet of the Serpent. 42 Skeleton Archers with Master of Arrows, full command. Mm-hmm. 9 Ushabti with Great Bows and a Champ. Single Necrosphinx. 2 Tomb Scorpions, one of which has the Terrors Below. 7 Ushabti with Great Bows and an Ancient, and a single Casket. Just to give you guys a little hot shot of the direction these things are going. This, could if Cathay was less of a menace, this could be straight back to our 3 Scorpion, double Necrosphinx, whatnot. But they're actually still playing the Poison Brick because the Poison Brick is not an awful finisher to a 1 or 2 wound balloon.
No, it's true. But some of these guys are still bringing what works. Like Phil Carl for the US is bringing the list that's won him a number of events and giving him like the double dragon.
Yeah.
We're seeing,
and that's a choice that teams have to make, right? Like, are we going to pivot what is an we have a superstar player on XYZ faction. They could be out there trying to generate us big wins, or do we tilt them and change their list in a direction that helps stop what our opponent wants to do, which is more beneficial to us in our lineup? And these are some huge decisions each team has to make.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, you see Phil keeping up with his, double dragon list with the unit of Sepulchral Stalkers and the unit of Chariots. We have seen a few people go back to double casket, like Denmark running double casket. England, I believe, it went into Royal Host. So they've got like 150 cohort.
Yeah, they went the Skaven route.
Yeah, almost all archers. Like, so they have a unit of 74, 2 units of 74. So like they're maxing out like how many guys they can take to keep under 500. And then they've got like Tomb King, Tomb Prince. However, with the chariot thing not working anymore, they have to be on foot, which really lowers a lot of their capability. Multiple mortuary priests. So yeah, this and that's a list that's kind of trying to do what Skaven does, which is deny points by here's these ridiculously large bricks, and I've got 2 of them, and then all the points you're getting are if you possibly kill my skeleton skirmishers, I'm going to keep in ambush as long as possible, or my like 1 skeleton chariot that I had to take. So yeah, same idea. So, and I think if you ever have the chance to take a look at these lists, like you can tell what countries are trying to like figure out the team scenario, and what countries are like, let's just tell our guys that play real good to take what they're good at.
Yeah, correct.
Like England and the US, perfect examples. Their guys taking what they're good at. James Ramsey's Atration Woodsman list is fantastic.
Well, it's a very interesting position of privilege, right? So if you are looking at this, if you get this document and you get all the lists, if you're scrolling down and you just see a singles list, that's because that team thinks that's one of the best armies in the game. The best armies in the game get to simply play a singles list to all intents and purposes. The worse the faction is in the public eye or in the team's estimation, the more it has to be tilted towards a team's matchup to be fit for a purpose.
And I would say a big another change we're seeing with armies for the Cathay matchup, and also just because Magic is so nerfed, is how many vampires lists swung to hex rates. At least like with the big names, right?
Well, because without them, they kind of get punished. Like the Cathay kind of bullies them without the hex race. They need to have the ethereal, otherwise they can just get blown up and end up doing nothing. The things like the Mortis engines can just die turn one.
Yeah. So you have like England bringing 14 hex race, like a unit of 8, a unit of 6, along with like all the normal good stuff, just lowering their like zombie counts to account for it. Finland got a unit of 6. France is bringing 6. Poland's bringing 5 or 6. Scotland's got a bunch. Wales got a bunch. Denmark's got 12. And it's because like hex rates are a unit that does like their ethereal. Cathay doesn't have a lot of ethereal busters because not very many people are taking like the Jade Ring or the Ring of Jet right now for them. Yeah. So they're kind of relying on maybe a Shugengen general with a flaming sword. If they even took that, a lot of the Shugengen generals are just naked really in these lists. So they literally have no way other than like hoping to use a signature spell to kill these things. And X-rays can do damage to balloons. It's a really interesting swing. And I think that's almost a bigger swing for me than the Tomb Kings with the Ushabti is like how many people swung to hex rates, a unit that really wasn't seeing play prior to this patch.
You got to go where you got to go. You have to go and find the tech pieces, the things that'll give you more agency in said matchups. The main outside Cathay, the main army that I'm seeing that has changed the least, I think, is Warriors of Chaos.
Warriors of Chaos is kind of like 2 builds,
correct. It's pretty close to their singles builds, right?
Yeah, so like most of them are taking either a double Exalted Champion or Chaos Lord and Exalted Champ on dragons. Like Chaos Lord being like basically naked, but for maybe a favor of the gods. Exalted Champ running if they're going double Exalted Champ or even single, it's for the triple save. So they're taking the Crown of Everlasting Conquest or the Raven, whatever it is.
I'm looking at Denmark. I'm looking at Denmark's right now. Yeah, Exalted Champ, Dragon, both have 2 of them. Both have Mark and Nurgle. Both got great weapons. Both have 2 favors. Both have Brazen Collar. One has the Carrion Crow. Yep, like you said. One has Crown of Everlasting Conquest. Yeah. And then it's 10 Knights with Nurgle and Icon of Darkness, 7 Marauders, Horsemen, 7 Marauder Horsemen, and a Warfire Dragon. And that is it. It's 3 dragons and 1 brick of Knights. That's all you got.
And that's basically what my my singles list was until I switched to the Demon Prince. The only thing is, like, I probably wouldn't make one of those Exalted Champs unaligned because for the leadership rerolls, because they're only leadership 8. But otherwise, like, that's the list, right? And then if you look at like England, they went with Wolves of the Sea, which is probably the other way to play this, with just like ton of Marauder Horsemen to grab objectives and to harass other people's objective grabbers. You're still doing double Dragon, and then you're also getting to run like your gigantic Chaos Spawn, which are fantastic. You've got Skin Wolves, which are fast. But yeah, like those are kind of like the 2 ways right now of playing Warriors of Chaos. Oh, and then the Marauder Berserkers, because ambushers on smaller units is fantastic to steal like carts and stuff at the end of the game. So
were you surprised about how homogenous the Orcs and Goblins lists turned out to be? They're all pretty much the same. They're all pretty much double Doom Diver, some number of Rock Lobbers, and then at least 3, sometimes 4 units of Night Goblins, and then just like your odd gets, one War Boss, etc., etc. They all seem very homogenous, and that was surprising to me.
Yeah, I think like Hungary is the only one that kind of went out of their way to be different. And honestly, if you look at all of Hungary's lists, I feel like they did. And whether that's just like because they're crazy Hungarians, or if like they know some kind of secret, because that's another thing, and I've talked to some people about this that have seen these lists, and they were asking me questions just for my experience from 40K if they were new. Like, the wonderful thing about 40K WTC is for the longest time, up until like Stat Center came out and started actually tracking WTC, and some other people did it later, is that like nobody, that if you didn't watch the WTC, there were a bunch of countries you didn't know were actually good at 40K. And so you look at their lists and you just be like, well, this is garbage. And then someone would be like, well, that guy, he calls himself the Joker. And he's basically undefeated.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
So for example, in 40K WTC, there's a guy called Skark who plays for Team Poland and has, if you just looked at him, he is a small, bald Polish man. And he looks extremely unassuming. And that dude has played in every single ETC and WTC for Team Poland. Every single one. He's like the freaking GOAT. And he's just a short, bald, gray-haired Polish man.
He's probably got like a 90% win rate. Like, it's just
exactly right.
And that's like a thing, like because we're kind of self-centered when we think about our own countries, and like we're the only ones that do this. And then, but if you actually pay attention to the scene, it's a little different in Europe because it's so small, right? But if you look at Canada and the US, you're kind of like, well, these are the best players. And then you go and you watch these teams, and then you're like, okay, well, you have to understand, like, Fantasy Battle's been around for forever. Very popular in Germany, very popular in Italy, very popular in Poland. And so these teams, like, even though you might look at the lists and scratch your head, like, sometimes there's a reason they brought it. Like, and so that's why I'm not taking anything away from Hungary, even if a couple of lists make me go, I wonder what they're trying to accomplish.
Exactly. You really cannot judge, because they might know something. They might have some secret spicy tech, or the player that's on that weird list has taken 500 points of what appears to be nonsense, but it means that he wins against this matchup that your opponent thinks that they win against. And it's specifically tilted to like pop a bubble, or what we call as a flip. So the biggest thing you could ever do, the best thing you could ever do in an 8-player or in any team event, but especially at this level, is have a flipped matchup. And what that means is that both players go in with a green on their matrix. Both players think they're going to win, but one player is correct and the other player is not. That's what we call a flipped matchup, where you think you're engineering something good for your team, but secretly your opponent's team has cracked that matchup, discovered the secret ways to undo everything you want to try and do, and breaks you back. And then let's say you expected to get a 15, but you get 15, and you're like, oh, well, I only got 10 points. No, you didn't. No, you freaking didn't. You gave up so many more points than that, because you gave up an exponential like snowballing effect of cascading things that could occur. What happens when your captain, your coach, walks down the line and he's just like, oh, we thought we were getting a big win in another game, but we're not. We need you to push. And a cascading effect that all your other players start trying to do dumb shit to make up for the shortfall that you thought you were going to get. And then bang, you've lost a round because of it. So the best thing you could ever do is do a flip matchup. And because of that, you should never judge a book by its cover at this level.
Yeah.
I want to talk about dwarves for a couple of minutes. Then we're going to check out. We're probably going to continue this exact conversation over on the other side, because there's plenty of other factions to break down and teams to look at. But Finland's dwarves is a great example of the direction that dwarves have kind of been forced into. But they're a good example of that. Exactly what I said about a faction. If you have there's so many amazing dwarf players out there, but they just don't have a lot of juice in the current meta at the moment. They just don't have anything for Cathay if they go second and their cannons die. Congrats, you don't have anything for Cathay. They just fly their balloons directly next to your big blocks and shoot them until they're gone. So the dwarves have been one of those lists that more than any others, I think, have gone in a completely different direction to what they would do in singles. Finland's is a good example of it. It's very, I guess, straight up and down. There's a lot of examples that have Burlock in here, etc., etc. This is a dwarf engineer with sappers, of course, Mastery of Calm. A Thane, this is the Daka Thane with the rune of rapid fire, bursting flame, rune of accuracy. 2x17 rangers, great weapons, crossbows, full command. Sorry, no musician, rather, Deadeye and Standard Bearer. 2x2 scout copters, 3x4 gyrocopters, and 2 cannons. And that's an example of the hard level of skew that is demanded by a faction that is takeable, but isn't one of the best armies in the game.
Yeah, and like the reason why we're seeing this is, and we'll see, like most armies are taking like even more than this, because they also have like 4 scout gyros in this list. So you got 12 gyros.
2x2 scout gyros and 3x4 regular gyros.
Yeah, and like we're seeing some people take even more gyros, right? It's like so it's a skew that works. It's and we've like it's funny because this was like a demon that people thought was going to be a big bad in singles play when the game first launched, myself included. And it turned out to just like not. But in teams play, it does go back to that because skews like this, they can be very hard to deal with for some armies, just from a like how do I rate that perspective. Like, is this actually a yellow or a green for me? Is it actually like a red? You actually have to like practice that matchup and actually see for yourself if it's not like a skew you're used to. But also with this many brimstones, armies that are taking this many brimstones, they're taking it for the Cathay matchup. They're hoping that they can outfly the balloons and pepper them with those strength 5 shots. And also like outposition the Jade Lancers and kind of play that game because there's only like a handful of armies that are bringing like Icons of Heavenly Fury. We're seeing it in a few of the Cathay lists. And that's kind of like their hope is they're going to play that game. And that's also why those savvy Cathay players have thrown the Icon of Heavenly Fury back in their lists so that if they end up getting pinned by that dwarf, they can say, okay, well, I'm going to have a turn where you don't move. And I get to like lay waste to you.
Full spread. Yeah. Full spread across the board.
So it becomes a very interesting matchup in that perspective.
Agreed. And yeah, perfect example of the skews that are demanded of some factions. Yeah, really exciting stuff. But on that note, we're going to wrap this one up and go over and record some part 2 goodness. And we're going to answer some Patreon questions in addition to continue our unpacking. We've left Beastmen to unpack on the other side, as well as Bretonians, as well as a bunch of other awesome things. In addition to looking at the full spreads of entire 8 packs. Like how does a whole nation's 8 players sewn together? Where's the design structure between? Where's the commonalities? And how do we expect them to wield their said players and lists? So hopefully you'll join us over on there. That's at Patreon at That Old World Charm. Petey baby, say goodbye.
You've been listening to That Old World Charm with those charming chaps Adam, Danny, and Peter the Falcon. Thanks ever so much. Cheerio.